Hello everyone. In the previous videos we have discussed about the introduction of this lesson, that is all about we have discussed that life processes. Here we will be discussing about the nutrition. So in the previous video, last video, we have discussed about the nutrition in plants. Mostly we have discussed about photosynthesis and how photosynthesis takes place and the events that takes place during photosynthesis, and about plants we had discussed in the video. But here in this video we will be discussing about the nutrition in human beings. To be precise, about human beings will be discussed. So if we discuss about the nutrition in human beings, so in our body, in case of all human, we have a specific system in our body. For different life process, we have a different system for that. For respiration, we have a respiratory system. For circulation, we have a circulatory or transportation system. For excretion, we have an excretory system, and like this. For nutrition, we have a digestive system. So if you see the digestive system, we can see various organs are there along with that. So here you can see these two things are there. These are lungs. So these two are not our digestive part of digestive system. They are just shown. So this part is our mainly digestive system. So in the next picture you can see it clearly. So this is the main picture of digestive system. So if we see, it starts from here, from the mouth, and ultimately it ends in the anus. So we have different parts here and different organs are associated with it. And from the mouth, the first part is the mouth, and then we have the esophagus. So one long tube like structure is there, and it is known as esophagus. And then we have a sac like structure like a bag, and it is known as stomach. We know that. And it ultimately reaches to this small part, and it is known as long small tube is there, and it is known as small intestine, and which ultimately increases in size and takes the structure of this one, and it is known as large intestine, and ultimately it ends in anus. So these are the different parts of the digestive system, and along with this long canal we have some other things associated with it. So here you can see one structure is there, it is known as liver, and along with the liver we have a small structure, it is known as gallbladder, and we have a leaf like structure, and it is known as pancreas. So these three things are associated with this long tube. And here you can see other things are there. These are known as salivary glands, which are present inside the mouth. So in three locations it is present inside the mouth, and these are known as salivary glands. So main function of these salivary glands is to secrete saliva in the mouth. So these are the different parts or organs that are associated or that are present in the digestive system. So in the next picture you can see clearly. So here it is the alimentary canal or digestive canal. So in that previous picture we have seen one canal starts from the mouth and ends in anus, and along with that we had that glands also. So if we skip or if we ignore the glands, we have only one part which starts from the mouth and ends in anus. So this long tube is known as, or long canal is known as alimentary canal or digestive canal. From the mouth it starts and ends in anus. This has the main parts like mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So here it is given esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and end part of large intestine is known as anus. So this is the one long tube, and it is known as alimentary canal or digestive canal. Other than this alimentary canal or digestive canal, we have these associated glands, and these are known as associated glands, and mainly we have the three things. These are, first one is our liver, and we have a gallbladder which is associated with the liver. It's a small one in compared to the liver, and we have a leaf like structure known as pancreas. So these are the three glands that are present along with the alimentary canal. So the process of that digestion starts from the mouth itself. So when we take the food inside, first we need to break the food with the help of what teeth. We have different types of teeth, like incisors we have, then we have canine, premolars and molars. So here you can see we have a set of there are four incisors we have. In the down we have 4 and on the up we have a 4. Total 8 number of incisors we have. So 2 incisors and these are central incisors, and we have a lateral incisors. Then we have this sharp one. 2 sharp ones are there on the left one and the right one. These are known as canines. Then we have 2 premolars, first premolar, second premolar, and then we have 3 molars. All these teeth have different shapes and different sizes. Why do they have different shape and sizes? Because their function is different. These incisors are mainly used by human beings or any other animals to cut the things. So here we are discussing about humans, so you will consider humans. Here you can see we use these incisors to cut the things, to bite something, and the canines are used to tear the fleshes of animals or fish and all. So to tear that we use the canines. And premolars are for grinding purpose, and molars are used for final grinding. So if you need to grind something, we'll use premolars, and if you need to do the final grinding, so you have to use the molars. So different shape and size is there, and they have different functions also. So the process of breakdown of food with the help of teeth is called mastication. So mastication is a process in which what happens, the food is broken down with the help of teeth. The process of breakdown of food with the help of teeth is called mastication. So first this is a physical breakdown of the food with the help of teeth. Then what happens, when we break the food, it mixes with the saliva, which is secreted from the salivary glands. As we have already seen, salivary glands are present in the mouth, and these salivary glands, when we chew something, that salivary glands secrete saliva, which mixes with the food, and the food converts into like a ball shape, and this is known as food bolus. The food turns the shape of a ball, and it is known as food bolus when it is mixed with saliva. So these are the things physically we can see, or physical things, but chemical breakdown of food is also takes place here. This is a mouth oral cavity or mouth cavity or buccal cavity. So here this food bolus, or inside this buccal cavity, the saliva mixes with the food and the food turns into food bolus. So this physical breaking down of the food we have seen. So here you can see the chemical breakdown. So mostly food contains one very complex structure that is known as starch. So starch is present mostly in all substances, and it is a very complex structure. It is one form of carbohydrate, very complex carbohydrate. So when the food mixes with saliva contains one enzyme which is known as salivary amylase. So saliva contains one enzyme, it is known as salivary amylase, an enzyme that breaks down complex starch into simple sugars. So if you consider this is the structure of starch, and it's a very complex structure, it is a long structure. So when it mixed with saliva, and saliva contains this salivary amylase or amylase, it breaks the starch into small units or simple sugars, and these are known as maltose. So simple sugars can be termed as maltose, and these are like starch is a name, maltose is also one type of name. So maltose, it is converted to maltose because of the action of this amylase. So amylase or salivary amylase is present in saliva, which breaks down the starch into simple sugars or maltose. So this is chemical breakdown. Physical breakdown is done with the help of teeth, and chemical breakdown is done here with the help of this enzyme known as salivary amylase. Then what happens, the food bolus goes down through this esophagus or esophagus. We can write it like esophagus or esophagus, both the terms are correct, no problem. The food moves downwards through that esophagus. So there nothing will happen, just the food will move, but food will not move directly. There is a process, or there is a type of movement with the help of that the food moves down. So what is that? This is known as peristalsis or peristaltic movement. So in this picture you can see peristalsis or peristaltic movement. From the mouth what happens, the food goes down. So the food will go down like this or move down like this. The front portion of the esophagus or the tube will increase in size, and the back portion will become shrink. So it will push the food to move forward. So it will move little forward, then again the back side of the tube will shrink and push the food forward. So like in this type of movement, the food will move forward. So this type of movement is known as peristalsis or peristaltic movement. Then when the food from this esophagus, the food reaches our stomach. So here you can see different food are picture is given. Foods have reached in stomach. So the food will ultimately reach to stomach. So when the food will reach the stomach, there is a glands are present. Some different certain or some amount of glands are present on the walls of stomach. So on the walls of stomach, some gastric glands are present, and they will secrete three things mainly. So first thing, they will secrete pepsin. Pepsin is an enzyme, HCl, an acid, and mucus. So these three things will be secreted by the gastric glands present on the walls of stomach. So pepsin, an enzyme, HCl, and mucus. So pepsin is an enzyme, HCl is an acid, and mucus is a substance, slippery substance, which is secreted. All these three things are secreted by the gastric glands present on the stomach. So what are the functions of these things? So when the food comes in the stomach, HCl, pepsin, and mucus will be secreted. So HCl will help to convert the food into acidic. The food comes into our stomach is neutral, so it should be converted to acid in acidic form. Why? Because if it is not converted to acidic form, the pepsin will not be able to work. So to help the pepsin to work, the food has to be converted into acidic form, and HCl does it. So HCl will convert the food acidic, and food turns into acidic so that pepsin can work. HCl also kills bacteria if present in the food. So if in the food bacteria are present, it will also be killed by the HCl acid, because HCl acid is a very strong acid. It will help to kill the bacteria, and HCl converts the food to acidic because so that pepsin can work. And what is the work of pepsin? If HCl is helping a lot to the pepsins, what is the work of this pepsin? So pepsin breaks down protein into proteases. So if you consider this is protein, a weak substance, a complex structure or complex substance, pepsin will break it into smaller peptides, or it is known as proteases. So it will be converted into smaller peptides or small form of or simple proteins. It will be converted. It is done by the pepsin because it is an enzyme. Enzyme breaks down complex substances into simpler ones. In the previous one also we have seen about a salivary amylase, which was an enzyme which has broken down the complex starch into simple sugars. Here pepsin is an enzyme which is breaking down the complex protein into simple proteins. So this is the work of pepsin, and pepsin does the work only the food is in acidic form. So it is the acidic form is converted by the HCl. And mucus. So what is the work of mucus? Why the gastric glands secrete mucus? So mucus protects the inner wall of the stomach from acid. So as we know that the HCl acid is a very strong acid, it can burn the inner walls of the stomach. So this mucus will protect the inner wall. It will be acting like a protective layer around the inner surface of the stomach, and which will ultimately be protected by the mucus from the acid action. Then the food reaches to the small intestine. So small intestine is a long part. It is the longest part of the alimentary canal, and it is in the coil form, and main thing occurs here. The complete digestion of the food takes place in small intestine. So the food which comes to the small intestine is in acidic form because it has converted into acidic form in the stomach, and it has traveled, or it is moved to the small intestine. So if the food reaches to the small intestine is acidic, the few enzymes will be secreted in the small intestine, and those enzymes will not be able to work here. So the food needs to be converted to in alkaline or basic form. So who will do that? So we have a special organ in our body, and this is known as liver, and liver will secrete one very special juice which is known as bile juice, which is secreted by this liver and is stored in the gallbladder. So you remember this thing, bile juice is secreted from the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder. It is not secreted from the gallbladder. It will be secreted from the liver and it will be stored in the gallbladder. So this bile juice will convert the acidic food into alkaline food or basic food. Then this bile juice also contains some salt, and it is known as bile salt. So some bile salts are present in the bile juices. So this bile salt does what? The bile salt will break the big or large fat globules. So fats are also there in the food, so these fats needs to be broken down into simpler ones. So these big large droplets of or large fat globules will be broken into simpler form of fats, and this is done by the bile salts, and these small fats are known as emulsified fats, these or emulsion of tiny fat droplets. So it is converted by the bile salts, and these are known as emulsified fats. So when the food will be converted to basic or alkaline by the help of this bile juice, pancreas, we have a gland along with this alimentary canal. It is a leaf-like gland which will secrete juices, or these are known as pancreatic juice, which contains enzymes like trypsin and lipase. So enzymes are there, trypsin and lipase. So these enzymes will ultimately help to break the food. So trypsin breaks proteins, which are ultimately we can say as proteoses, because in the stomach, pepsin has broken down the proteins into proteoses. So these proteoses or simple proteins will be broken into more simpler forms by the trypsin enzyme, so which is present in the pancreatic juice. So this pancreatic juice contains this trypsin, which breaks down the simple proteins into more simpler forms, and lipase will break down the emulsified fats into more simple forms. Those bile salts have broken down the large globules of fats into emulsified fats or tiny droplets of fats, which will be ultimately converted or broken down into more simpler forms by the help of this lipase enzyme. And then after this action of this trypsin and lipase, there are some glands are present on the inner walls of the small intestine. So if we see the small intestine, the inner surface under the microscope, we can see small glands are present, and these are known as intestinal glands. So these intestinal glands will secrete various types of enzymes, and which will eventually break down the proteins into amino acids. Those simpler forms of proteins will be broken into the simplest form of proteins. These are known as amino acids. These carbohydrates, the simple carbohydrates or simple sugars, will be converted into glucose, which is the simplest form of carbohydrate, and fats will be converted into fatty acids. So this is the simplest form of fats. So these things will be, this final product will be converted into the small intestine by the various enzymes present in the intestinal juices, which will be secreted by the intestinal glands. Then if we see the inner walls more closely, we can see structures like this. So these are known as villi. So villi are the finger-like or hair-like projections present in the inner surface of the small intestine. So these villi are richly supplied with blood vessels. So these villi are richly supplied with blood vessels, and this final product, that is amino acids, glucose and fatty acids, will be diffused into the blood through these villi. So through these villi, it will be diffused by the process of diffusion. It will be diffused in the blood, and the blood will carry those amino acids, glucose and fatty acids into the different parts of the body. So this is the nutrition process is somewhat over here, because the ultimate goal of the nutrition or digestion process is to reach to transfer the various nutrients into the body. Then the undigested part of the food is traveled to the large intestine, and in the large intestine, excess water present in the undigested food is reabsorbed by the body in large intestine, and thus undigested food is passed through anus in the form of fecal matter. So this what should be body. So the excess water present in the food. So in the food or undigested food present some excess water. This is reabsorbed by the body. So the body will reabsorb the excess water from the undigested food, and the undigested food passed through anus in the form of fecal matter. So in the form of fecal matter, the undigested food will be removed through this anus. So this is all about the process of digestion that takes place in human body. So it's a very simple process, that not that complex. Different various names of various enzymes and different glands are there. You need to remember all the things, and hopefully you have enjoyed the session, and thank you for watching the video.